What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to XJW Diaries. My name is Justin. No, the title is not clickbait. Jehovah's Witnesses do indeed control the very reality of their members. That's not an exaggeration. You know, over the years of doing this channel, I've asked myself if I ever got the opportunity to talk to a Jehovah's Witness, knowing that they would listen, what would I say to them? And ultimately, I think one of the most important things for people to know is just how much control they are under. For them to realize just how much they are not thinking for themselves. You see, you could argue all the doctrine things, but you can argue that all day and all night and get nowhere. People are going to believe whatever they're going to believe, right? You can bring up the abuse cases, and even though that is definitely a serious issue, the fact is, due to their mental conditioning, it's quite easy for Jehovah's Witnesses to dismiss those things. But when it comes to realizing just how much control they are under, now that's usually when doors start to open. And that's what this video is all about. Now, of course, this is also important for people out there who are actively in the process of waking up from the witnesses, or really any other high control group. A lot of this stuff applies across the board, because this is what you're fighting up against, right? And for people like myself, people who have been out of the witnesses for many years, this is still important because this is what you're trying to clear out. And for people out there who are smart enough to research these organizations before they get sucked into it, this is definitely important because this is what you are subjecting yourself to. So this is definitely going to be a deeper video, but I'm going to do my best to keep this on the shorter side. And this is definitely going to be a different video than most other XJW videos that you've seen. But again, this is a very, very important topic. And I definitely encourage you to do your own research. Don't just take my word for it. Do your own research. So let's get into this. Let's see exactly how the Jehovah's Witnesses quite literally control the very reality of their members. So let's start things off with really the key of this entire video. And if you haven't heard this stuff before, it's kind of trippy to hear it for the first time. But if you really think about it, it just couldn't be any other way, right? So here's the key. As a human being, you do not ever experience anything outside of your own mind. Let me repeat that. As a human being, you do not ever experience anything outside of your own mind. Now, why is that? Well, your brain is fully encapsulated in your skull, right? So it has no idea what's outside of itself. But luckily, your body is equipped with various tools, and those various tools provide your five senses. So you've got your smell and your taste and your touch and your hearing and your vision. And it uses those five senses to basically create your reality. This is your entire experience, right? Again, it's kind of trippy when you first hear it, but that is what you're experiencing. You're experiencing your brain doing the processing based off of these five senses. Now, out of those five senses, when it comes to building this reality, you could argue that your sense of sight and your sense of hearing are the two primary senses, the most important ones, okay? I'm sure, you know, back in 2020, when the virus was going around, maybe some of you got sick and you lost your sense of taste and smell. Now, you know, you feel a little disconnected with those gone, but you're okay. Now, if you lose your sight and your hearing, it's going to be quite a bit harder to get around this environment, right? So again, you could argue that those two senses are really some of the most important ones out of your five senses. Now, it's important to remember that you don't see with your eyes, nor do you hear with your ears. With both of those things, again, it's your brain that's doing the processing. It's your mind that you're experiencing. You don't see with your eyes, you see with your mind. You don't hear with your ears, you hear with your mind. So really, when it comes to reality, once again, you do not experience anything outside of your own mind. And again, if you're hearing it for the first time, it is kind of trippy to think about. And what's even more trippy is that it all takes time, right? The speed of light is very fast, but it still takes time. So as those light particles are bouncing around, getting into your eyes, that takes time. It takes time for those signals to get processed. It takes time for your mind to process it. Same goes for your sound. The speed of sound is even slower than the speed of light. That takes time. So in reality, your experience of reality is always ever so slightly in the past. So it's times like this when you really got to appreciate just how powerful we are as individuals. But unfortunately, that power can be misused. And this is what this video is all about. So again, your brain is processing all this data coming in from your five senses to build your reality. Only issue is your five senses can pick up a lot more data than you can be aware of. If you were truly aware of everything, you would go nuts, right? You would feel every single hair on your body all blowing in the wind all at once. It would just be too much. Everything would be overstimulated. You would hear every single car going by, the tires of the car. I mean, everything. You would hear, see, you'd be aware of everything. So what does your brain have to do? Your brain has to filter all that data coming in, and it filters it, of course, according to what is relevant for you. So it's a little bit like surfing the web, right? As you surf the web, you go to all these websites, you have all these tracking companies that are tracking everything you're doing, everything you're typing in, everything you're looking at, and it's selling that data to all these different companies. And what these companies do is sell your data to advertisement companies. That way, when you're surfing the web, you see advertisements that are relevant for whatever it is that you are interested in at that time. So if you are in a time in your life where you're looking for a new car and you're looking at tons and tons of cars and the internet is watching you look at all these cars, then guess what? Sooner or later, you're going to start to see advertisements for more and more cars because they know that that is relevant to you. So your brain is doing much the same thing. As all this data is coming in, too much for it to ever make you aware of all of it all at once, it filters it down to what is relevant for you. And that is what you are aware of. So I know that my audience is very smart people. So I'm sure that many of you out there already see where this video is going, right? Again, you don't ever experience anything outside of your own mind. And yet at the same time, your mind is always filtering the data coming in according to what is relevant for you. And here is where everything connects to the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, as Jehovah's Witnesses, all of us were subject to mental conditioning. Very powerful means of mental conditioning and various means. Some of these means include things like, of course, studying, right? Jehovah's Witness studying is not really studying. Jehovah's Witness studying is a process. It's a process that goes like this. They give you a piece of information. They then tell you how you should feel about that information. Then they ask you how you feel about that information. And of course, you respond in the way that you've been told to respond. Now, this process can take place in a few sentences. Sometimes it takes the whole paragraph. Sometimes it takes the whole subheading. Sometimes it's the whole Watchtower session or book study session, whatever the case is. Sometimes it's the whole chapter, right? In either case, I guarantee you, if you go back through Jehovah's Witness literature, you will always find this pattern in one way or another. And that pattern is very powerful for mental conditioning. Another mental conditioning method is, of course, the community. Because as a Jehovah's Witness, you are surrounded by people who believe what you believe, who speak the way you speak, who have studied what you study. And so this creates a constant feedback loop of that information to where you don't think outside of what the community is thinking. This is something that goes down to the human survival instincts, that you don't want to go against the group. You don't go against the group's thinking, because then you could be an outcast. And in those early human survival days, if you got outcasted from the group, I mean, are you really going to go fight those saber-toothed tigers by yourself? I don't think so. So again, they're reaching the core human nature with things like that. Another mental conditioning method is their music, right? In their music, they are repeating themes. As human beings, we tend to remember things better when it's in song form. And think back to when you were a little kid learning the ABCs, right? Furthermore, the Jehovah's Witness music tends to be very low tempo, very calming, right? And what this does is put your brain into a theta wave state, When you are in a theta wave state and more relaxed, you are therefore more receptive to receiving new information. That information is then able to seep into your subconscious mind much easier than it would be otherwise. Another mental conditioning method is, of course, going out in service, right? Now you're going to strangers' homes trying to teach them this information. When you have to teach information, that forces you to understand the information in a different way. That is making that information go deeper into your own mind. And of course, the other means of mental conditioning is the repetition. This is something that is throughout various aspects of Jehovah's Witness lifestyle, is that constant repetition. Now, repetition is very, very important for mentally conditioning the mind. If you repeat something over and over and over again, the mind is able to bring up that information easier and easier until it becomes almost instinctual. This is why when Jehovah's Witnesses hear the word truth, what comes up in their head first is something completely different than somebody that was not raised a Jehovah's Witness. Now, there's many, many more means of mental conditioning. It would take too long to go into all of them in this video. But the point is that as Jehovah's Witnesses, we were all subject to these various means of mental conditioning, right? That means that our mind, think about that word, our mind has been conditioned according to the Watchtower's will. As all this data is coming in through the five senses, the mind first filters it according to what is relevant to you. But if your mind has been mentally conditioned, what do you think is happening to that filter? So the end result of this is that as a Jehovah's Witness, what you experience is an altered reality, right? This is because that filtration process has again been influenced by the Watchtower through the various mental conditioning techniques. And since that filter has been so influenced, what you have awareness of as your mind is building this experience for you is going to be according to what the Watchtower wants you to have a heightened awareness of, according to the ideas that they have given you. For example, when you consider the idea that we are living in the end times, the worst of the worst, right? This is one of their core beliefs. Then when you go out into the world with that mental conditioning, when you read the news, when you talk to your neighbors, what you're going to focus on, what you're going to be more aware of is all the negativity happening in the world today. Now, don't get me wrong. There is plenty of negativity in the world today. That is true. But that's not all that's going on. And of course, this altered reality follows Jehovah's Witnesses everywhere they go, both in the outside world and in their own minds, in their inner world, right? We all have our own private inner world, our own thoughts. Even those are going to be heavily influenced by that mental conditioning. And so this is why when you leave the Witnesses, especially at the very beginning stages of it, it feels like your reality is breaking, because in some sense it is, right? You are breaking that filter that the Jehovah's Witnesses have molded according to their means. And now you are resetting it, and you're going to be aware of things that, you know, they were always there, but you just had no awareness of because they were being filtered out. The way that you perceive life, the way that you interact with people, it's all going to be different. The way you interact with yourself is going to be different because that filtration system has changed. Now, again, I was going to try to keep this thing short. I could keep going on and on about this stuff. It's pretty interesting to me, but I think the main points have really been made here. The Jehovah's Witnesses do literally control the very reality of their members. How? Because they mentally condition their members through various means. That mental conditioning impacts the filtration system that everybody has in their mind. That filtration system then makes the person more aware or less aware of certain things in their environment based on what is relevant to them. But of course, since you've been mentally conditioned, what is relevant for you is really what's relevant according to what the Watchtower wants to be relevant for you. So if you are someone out there who is going through the process of waking up, especially if you are someone like myself who's been out for many years, my challenge to you is for you to decide what you want to be more aware of. And just like the Jehovah's Witnesses mentally conditioned you to create your reality in the way that they wanted you to, you can do the same thing for yourself. Mental conditioning does not have to be a bad thing. I think that's another key from this video. Mental conditioning does not have to be a bad thing. Mental condition yourself according to what you want for your life and for your reality. If you don't do that, then you make it very, very easy for these religions or for these corporations there are various means on this planet, various groups who do understand just how powerful we are as humans and who will be very glad to use that power for you if you're not going to use it for yourself. So that's my challenge for you. For whatever goal you have in mind for yourself, mental condition yourself for that goal. Give yourself 5 years and see where you end up. So with all that being said, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching. If I don't see you before Christmas, if I don't make another video before then happy holidays for those of you that celebrate. All right. And for those of you that don't celebrate, definitely take it easy on yourself. I know that this season can be very tough for people that are just leaving the witnesses. So please definitely take it easy on yourself. Okay. And with all that, I will catch you in the next one. Peace.